From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, March 23rd, 2017. Silver is trading at $17.59 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,249 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 1.9 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,056. Antiwar.com reports Secretary of State Rex Tillerson on Wednesday confirmed previous comments by President Trump that the U.S. intends to set up safe zones in northern Syria to allow refugees to return home. As has been the case in the past, Tillerson's comments did not offer much in the way of details on how the U.S. intends to make this happen, though he did offer the idea that the U.S. would establish interim zones of stability through ceasefires. There were no details exactly on where these safe zones would be located, but one would have to assume that the territory occupied by Turkey in northern Aleppo province would house at least some of these zones, and it is unlikely the Idlib province, which is torn by fighting among various rebels, would have any. Turkey has been calling for the safe zones for years and has envisioned them being used as a base of operation for pro-Turkey rebels to operate out of without fear of being retaliated against militarily. Turkey's presumptive involvement in the effort likely also means no zones will be in Kurdish territory, though there are not so many refugees in the area around Syria and Kurdistan as there are further west. The coalition meeting on Wednesday emphasized the goal of destroying the Islamic State, while Tillerson emphasized that there would be no nation building afterwards in either Iraq or Syria, though he reiterated that U.S. troops would remain in Iraq after the war. Coalition military officials denied that any orders have been given to them so far to establish safe zones or any kind of zones at all. Though Turkey now controls territory that could be used for such zones, it is likely the U.S. would be expected to deploy a lot of troops to secure those areas. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. UPI reports about 17,000 AT&T employees in California and Nevada went on strike Wednesday over work assignments in the company's traditional wired telephone business. They walked off the job after AT&T changed some work assignments for technicians and call centers. The members of the AT&T West District Local set up picket lines outside AT&T offices and call centers across both states. The union called it a grievance strike. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports dozens of California communities have experienced recent rates of childhood lead poisoning that surpass those in Flint, Michigan, and one Fresno locale showing rates nearly 3 times higher, according to blood testing data obtained by Reuters. The data shows how lead poisoning affects even a state known for its environmental advocacy, with high rates of childhood exposure found in a swath of the Bay Area and downtown Los Angeles. And the figures show that despite national trends in eliminating lead-based products, hazards remain in areas far from the Rust Belt or East Coast region filled with old housing and legacy industry. In one central Fresno zip code, 13.6% of blood tests on children under the age of 6 came back high for lead. That compares to 5% across the city of Flint during its recent water contamination crisis. In all, Reuters found at least 29 Golden State neighborhoods where children had elevated lead levels at a rate at least as high as that in Flint. California Assemblyman Bill Quirk, who chairs the state legislature's Committee on Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials, said it's a widespread problem that we have to get a better idea of where the sources of exposure are. Last week, prompted in part by a December Reuters investigation pinpointing thousands of lead hotspots across the country, Quirk introduced a bill that would require blood lead screening for all California children. Now just a fraction of the state's children are tested. The state said testing of at-risk children and not all children skews California results to higher percentage of children tested showing lead exposure. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.